I'm Jake, you're watching Gas Guzzlers, and this is the Ineos Grenadier. Let's get into it. The Ineos Grenadier lacks some creature comforts that cars half its price have. I mean, this thing costs $85,000. Yet, I met people here that flew from Mississippi to Maryland to buy one of these. So here's a fun fact for you. Ineos, the company that made this car, is actually the third largest chemical manufacturer in the world. So today we're asking, are we feeling any chemistry with the Grenadier? Let's find out by starting at the exterior. LED lighting throughout the vehicle. We have our high beams located in our grille right there. Take a look at the wheels. They're pushed all the way out to the edges of the Grenadier. That is done to minimize the amount of front overhang, resulting in about a 35-degree approach angle, which is pretty aggressive. 10.4 inches of ground clearance here. We have 31 inches of water fording capability. If you turn on the water fording mode in the Grenadier, it'll turn off the cooling fan for the engine so you're not splashing water everywhere. You can get a 5.5 ton winch on the front. This thing really is not messing around. Taking a look at the side of the Grenadier, I think we get a really good little insight into what this vehicle is all about. I'm going to start with what it's missing, namely some common creature comforts these days in the auto industry, especially at this price point. We have manually folding mirrors, not power, and we don't even have keyless entry. You got to use your key fob like back in the olden days. But while those fun little frilly features are missing, it has some really cool solid utility features, namely the utility belt that runs along the side of the Grenadier. You can actually get an attachment here that lets you stick things to the side of your Grenadier like a raft or something like that. The doors are structurally reinforced so they can support the weight. In fact, the front door can support about 100 pounds of weight hanging off of it, a little bit less for the rear door. The Grenadier is a true truck. It uses a body-on-frame build. There's a lot of cool stuff going on at the rear of the Grenadier. Let's start with the spare tire. You have a full-size spare, but Ineos mounted the tire opposite of how it normally is mounted on the rear of a vehicle. So instead of having the rim pointing outward, the rim points inward, and they've used that space to put in a little storage cubby. It's an option. This vehicle doesn't have it, but on other Ineoses that are properly equipped, you can use a key and open a little storage cubby there and throw in boots or anything like that. Boots, smelly clothes, whatever. We have a 30-70 split rear trunk here, which is pretty unusual. You don't see this really. This little tiny door lets you easily go in and grab things, whereas that large door to the side gives you access to your entire cargo capacity. You have about 40 cubic feet of space behind the second row. Put the second row down, you're gonna find 70 cubic feet of space. Back here, there are two places that I could see some improvement being made in the future. First of all, to put down the second row seats, you have to reach kind of far to get up to the shoulder to be able to actually push them down without having to go around to the second row door. I think it'd be nice to see a button or a release button closer to the edge of the door here, just so you don't have to strain to get that second row down. The other problem I have with the second row is that it's a 60-40 split rather than a 40-20-40 split. And that means if you want to fit a long item down the center of the vehicle, you have to give up one of your two full-size seats. And you know, sometimes I can forgive that, but this is really an outdoors-focused vehicle, and it's a utility-focused vehicle. So this vehicle is marketed as something that you can throw your skis in, throw your lumber in straight down the middle. Unfortunately, since you have that 60-40 split, you're going to be losing a full-size seat. But all of that 60-40 split stuff is easily forgiven because it has a ladder. How fun is this? Look, I'm on the roof. The roof of the Grenadier can support 700 pounds. So you can have multiple people sleeping up here. This is a cool feature.
If you're liking the video, be sure to like and subscribe to Gas Guzzlers for more weekly automotive content. All right, let's get back into the Ineos.
Let's just quickly talk about some of the off-road goodies you have on the Grenadier. There's a 2-speed transfer case made by Tremec. A center locking diff is going to be standard. You can get front and rear electronic locking diffs as an option on the Grenadier. We do have anti-roll bars and progressive coil springs to keep things a little bit tighter and manageable when you're on the road. At the side of the Grenadier, you will notice that there is a UK flag and a German flag. Now, this is a car made in France by a UK chemical company, so why is there a German flag? Well, the power plant is German. There is a 3-liter inline-6 BMW gasoline or diesel engine, depending on your region. Here in North America, we only get the gasoline variant. Makes about 280 horsepower. It all gets sent through an 8-speed transmission, but it only gets about 15 miles to the gallon. That's the price to pay for cool retro styling. The interior of the Grenadier absolutely nails its intended aesthetic. I mean, you have these gigantic chunky switches. They're all over the roof. Look, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. It's just kind of fun to press them all, right? That is really cool. Also really cool, we have a drainable floor. So you can just spray the floor in here, and there are 5 drains around the interior of the Grenadier that will let you, well, drain after you wash out the interior. We have Recaro seats here. They're heated but not cooled. Kind of another weird thing to not include at a nearly $90,000 price point. But then again, while the Grenadier lacks some common creature comforts, it more than makes up for them in unique one-of-a-kind features, like these great safari windows right above us. But those aren't even the most fun feature up front. And to show you that feature, I have to turn the Grenadier on, which means using an old-fashioned key. Now, I get the charm of cutting out a lot of modern features, but push to start is just a nice, convenient feature. All right, let's go ahead and turn the Grenadier on, though. And now I can show you this feature, which is the toot button. Yep, instead of using your horn, you can use the toot button to emit a friendlier tone to let cyclists or other cars know of your presence without sounding so angry. In the rear of the Grenadier, you'll find space for 2 6-foot-tall adults. As you can see, I have plenty of headroom back here. You probably are not going to fit 3 adults back here because there's a pretty large drivetrain hump, so on longer rides they may get uncomfortable. In terms of creature comforts, we have a USB-A port and 1 USB-C port, along with climate vents back here, but no independent climate controls back here. Also, we do not have heated seats back here. It'd be nice to see heated seats in the rear because this is an off-road adventure-focused vehicle, and presumably a bunch of those adventures could happen in the cold. And here we go for a ride in the Ineos Grenadier.
Nope, your TV isn't broken. My camera stopped recording at this point, but I still have the audio, so enjoy this footage I took of the Grenadier overlaid with my thoughts.
All right, off we go. First of all, this thing is very easy to place on the road. As I was maneuvering out around the parking lot to get out, I noticed that those big fenders kind of make it really easy to see where the front corners of the truck are. So even though it's very large, it actually is relatively easy to move around a parking lot. Also, the steering actually feels much heavier than I expected, and I like a heavy steering wheel, but that I know can be a preference thing. I actually quite like how it steers. I think that they got a pretty good balance with the pedal and brake. I do think the brake feels a little mushy, but really for a first go at a vehicle, it is properly done. As you drive this, you know this is not an aerodynamic car, and you do hear that, right? The shape does result in more wind noise, and that engine, certainly a good amount of that engine noise comes through the interior as well. So it's not exactly a quiet ride, but anyone who looks at this thing probably is not expecting that, right? This is true to what it was made to be. This is a purpose-built vehicle made to be cool and to go off-road and to just be like a high-quality kind of utility item that you can use for real work, and Ineos really did succeed at that. Let's talk infotainment. You can control the infotainment system using either this dial right here, or you can use the touchscreen itself. I'm going to use the dial so that you can see the screen nice and clear. As you can see on the left, you have your speedometer. That's because there's no gauge cluster, so it's important that you have your fuel, your speedometer, etc. up there. Let's navigate to what you probably care about the most, which is the off-road section. Here you have a huge variety of options to cycle through. As you can see, you can get your pitch and your roll, all of your temperatures throughout the vehicle. The Pathfinder is kind of cool. You can create a GPS file and basically lay little breadcrumbs and follow your path back, or follow a path that you upload from your computer, etc. And we have a variety of GPS positioning and such. This is just a really well thought out menu. If you go to device, you can actually use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay with this infotainment system. I really like the thickness of the steering wheel. Here is your toot button, kind of fun. And then there's our gauge cluster, or lack thereof. It's just a little area where all of the warning lights can actually show up. I do think this vehicle could benefit one day from a heads-up display. Now, obviously, this is Ineos' first go at making a car. I wouldn't expect a heads-up display there, but maybe in a future variant, having a heads-up display could help just get rid of this little bit entirely. The Ineos Grenadier lacks some creature comforts that cars half its price have. I mean, this thing costs $85,000. Yet, I met people here that flew from Mississippi to Maryland to buy one of these. And I think I totally get it, actually. This is a really cool car, creature comforts or not. Just that styling and the interior really evoke an emotion. You feel like you're going on an adventure, a proper safari every time you get in here. And you know what? To evoke that emotion, that's priceless, right? That's a super cool feature. And I don't think any other vehicle other than the Grenadier quite evokes an emotion in that way. Other off-roaders have become so corporate, so designed by boardroom, and really tailored to just mall crawling, but not this thing. So I look forward to seeing Ineos and what they bring to the US market in the future, and I wish the new car brand the best of luck. I'm Jake, you're watching Gas Guzzlers, and this is the Ineos Grenadier. Stay safe, folks. We'll see you in next week's video.